steal. That's a compliment.
Non-sex appeal is not a
non-sex appeal.
I mean, I'm sure
obviously.
his wife would disagree, assuming Runyon is married.
You know,
but
Strahan broke up with Nicole Murphy.
I heard it. Who cares?
Just to let you know.
Who cares?
But it's kind of interesting he did it the week of the Super Bowl. Well, I'm sorry, the Hall of Fame.
Hall of Fame. You know, big events. Big events make people do big things.
I guess so.
So, but anyway, the other thing, Kelly Ripa was there. She was at the Hall of Fame ceremony, which was nice.
She weighs like 100 pounds.
I was going to say she's probably the smallest person. Compare Kelly Ripa to John Runyon.
Yeah.
Kelly Ripa, you'd need at least 3 of her to make one John Runyon.
It would.
That's what we're talking about. But I'm just going to go through the other players. Ray Guy, the first only punter to be elected and enshrined.
It's
in the
hard
Hall
to
of Fame.
believe.
Punter, it's I don't want to call it an insignificant position because
it's not.
it's obviously significant. Why it took so long? Because George Blanda was a punter. I know that. I didn't do any research as far as
he was a quarterback first.
Yeah, but he was a quarterback. That was his main position.
Right.
But there have been a couple of guys who played other positions for their regular position, but they also punted. That's going back in the NFL back in the days when guys did more than one thing. Then you have Andre Reed, the great Bills receiver, and there was actually a touching moment there when Reed was making his speech where he actually turned around and caught a pass from Jim Kelly. And for those of you who may not know, Jim Kelly is fighting a very public battle with cancer right now. So, you know, we certainly wish him all the best. Then there's Walter Jones, another guy who's Runyon-esque as far as size goes. He was a monster, and he played for the Seattle Seahawks. And you have Derek Brooks, the linebacker. Aeneas Williams, who tortured the Giants for a lot of years, playing secondary for the Cardinals. And defensive end Claude Humphrey. So that's your 2014 NFL or Pro Football Hall of Fame class. It's a nice class.
Yeah.
Very nice class.
Nice to see Ray Guy. I mean, I like, you know who one of my favorite punters was Dave Jennings.
Dave Jennings was one of my favorite commentators.
Yeah.
And a great punter.
And
the thing about let me just interrupt you one sec. The thing I loved about Ray Guy and what made Ray Guy such a great punter, his hang time on his punts was remarkable. I whenever you see that guy kick, it was like he could kick the ball to the sun. Because the guy who was waiting for the ball to come down would just if he would have had cell phones back then, he would have had time to make a call. So that's what you're dealing with Ray, and he did that, and nobody else could do it. The only guy who even came close to him back then was Reggie Roby, who played most of his career for the Dolphins. But nobody else was kicking like that, and that's what made Ray Guy so dangerous and such a weapon.
Yeah, well, he definitely deserves to be in there. See who the next punter is. Punters are sort of like the forgotten people in football.
They are. I mean, a lot of players in the league don't think they're really players. I mean, when you're looking at guys, I mean, Sean Landeta is a possibility just because he was around forever. I mean, the guy played like 20-something years in the NFL, which is unheard of. But, I mean, how many guys can you even think of? How many punters can you actually think of who...
I like
the Weatherford guy for Steve Weatherford for the Giants, a good punter, but is he a Hall of Famer? I don't think so.
I don't know.
He's been with the Giants for 6 or 7 years.
I don't know. Anyway, we have to take a break.
Let's take a break.
We'll be back right after this. 516-572-7440 here from the Pressbox.
Break out the mood rings and slip on the platform shoes. It's the Super 70s. The decade that brought us Elton John, Donnie Marie, and Fonzie are back on WHPC. Join me, Ron Stevens, as we count down the top 20 hits of a featured week and hear lots of bonus hits from that memorable decade. So listen to the Super 70s on 90.3 WHPC, the voice of Nassau Community College.
The Super 70s, Tuesday at 12 a.m. and Saturday at 7 a.m. on 90.3 WHPC.
Hey, this is DJ Searich, and you can listen to my show, The Jazz Cafe, Mondays at 11 a.m. Join me as I play classics from Roy Ayers, Grover Washington Jr., Duke Ellington, Ella Fitzgerald, and many others. So join me as I play the classics and soon-to-be classics on The Jazz Cafe on Mondays at 11 a.m. right here on WHPC 90.3 FM. The radio voice of Nassau Community College, now streaming on ncc.edu/WHPC.
Hi, this is Rabbi Pearl. Join me each Sunday morning at 9 a.m. for Jewish Talk. This program lasts 30 minutes, but its wisdom lasts a lifetime. So tell your friends and neighbors to tune in on Sundays at 9 a.m. on 90.3 FM. for Jewish Talk with Rabbi Pearl. Don't forget, it's Sundays, 9 a.m. on 90.3 FM for the program that speaks in English but thinks in Yiddish.
We're back here on From the Pressbox. I'm Rob Leonard, joined by my co-host Tim Leonard. And we're talking sports as we do every Monday, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. We're also streaming at ncc.edu/WHPC, also at tunein.com. Search WHPC. And joining us on the phone from the Bergen Record, I'll let Tim introduce him. Tim?
The big guest today is a multiple APSE award-winning sports writer, Jeff Roberts. How are you, Jeff Roberts?
All right, gentlemen. What's up, boys?
Doing all right. How about yourself?
No complaints on this fine Monday morning. What's going on?
Not much. First of all, I would like to congratulate Jeff Roberts publicly because he just did get married a couple of weeks ago.
He did. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Jeff Roberts. We're gonna have actually Jeff Roberts' wife on the show at some point in the next few weeks because she is Kimberly Martin. She covers the Jets for Newsday.
Far better looking and far more informative, I assure you.
Oh, come on, Jeff Roberts. Well, actually, the looks part I'll go with for
Do
sure.
journalists have groupies, by the way? As Tim is, for those who know,
No.
a sports writer. Jeff Roberts, are there groupies on the journalism side of the business?
God, I hope not, because if there are groupies, who knows what they look like?
Oh, okay. Well, sometimes they they come for the players and they might stay over for you guys.
No, even groupies have standards.
Oh, that hurt. That hurt.
I was talking more for myself, and
Of course.
a lot of guys who work at the Post. So.
I definitely confirm that.
What are we going to talk about with you, Mr. Jeff Roberts?
All right, Jeff Roberts. Let's start because you cover a lot of different things for the Record, but it seems like the focus is normally the Giants and the Yankees. I don't know how much Mets you're covering these days, but I know you do kind of a general assignment thing. Just where do you want to start? You want to start with the Giants or the Yankees? I'm going to let you choose.
Let's start with the Giants since they played last night.
Okay, good idea. I don't know how much of yesterday's game you saw. It seemed like the new offense, the supposed run and shoot, kind of started slowly. Eli kind of looked like he worked into it a little bit, and especially in the second series more so than the first. But the thing that I took away from yesterday's game was the Giants still, despite David Wilson's career potentially being over before it barely started, is they still have a pretty good running game.
Well, Jerry Reese was very smart. He knew that Wilson was at best a 50-50 proposition coming in. Remember, Wilson wasn't cleared until a couple of weeks ago. So he went out and signed Rashad Jennings. He went out and drafted Andre Williams, who's been one of the really nice surprises for them in camp, and basically had a plan A and a plan B and a plan C. And I think last night you saw plan A and plan C, which was Jennings and Wilson.
Agreed. I'm convinced. I was convinced draft day because I was one of the crazy people actually watching the second day of the draft. But when the Giants drafted Andre Williams, I gave it a little fist pump, and I thought that was just such a great pick because that kid killed it in college.
He's got a burst, and I was at Giants camp twice last week, and you see the ones versus the ones, and maybe you get a little bit out of it, maybe you don't. But every time the kid touched the ball, you could see that Williams has got that next, quote unquote next gear, and I think that's going to help him a lot at this level.
How much of yesterday's game did you see, and what were you impressed with, or even what have you been impressed with thus far in the workouts that you've gone to?
Well, I did see the 3 drives with the first team offense, and the things that I took away are, one, I'm not surprised that the offense started slow. You got to remember, Eli's been running Gilbride's offense for years. He's run it very, very well. As much as he's been very positive about McAdoo and the new offense, it's new for him. He's not as comfortable as he was, and it's going to take a little time. The next thing I noticed, and it's a good thing and a bad thing, and that was, as you mentioned, the running game. McAdoo sort of wants to throw the ball. They want to run this, no huddle, hurry up kind of offense. They want to keep the defense, off balance, uncomfortable. That's sort of totally different than what worked last night, which is you put in a fullback, which was Henry Hinoski, and you just ram the ball down the other team's throats. And they're going to, if this is the Giants team we're going to see, and I'm not saying that yet because you have to give the offense time, you have to give Eli time, but if this is the Giants team we're going to see, there'll be some issues because that's not how it was designed to work.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly wasn't a traditional run and shoot when you have the ground and pound working as well as it did last night. And, you know, Williams had that 21-yard burst and then just bowled his way into the end zone for the touchdown. I thought Rashard Jennings gained some tough yards and you know, certainly looked good. And you know, I mean, I'm not sure. I don't remember what the exact total of the running back's yardage was, but I'm pretty sure it was over 100. So that's not really run and shoot football.
No, it's very premature, and you knew that the offense was going to take some time. But it raised my eyebrow just because, I mean, the Giants have been whispering about not carrying a fullback on the team. So here you go, and you have two series, and you can't do anything. You put in a fullback and you run the ball, and all of a sudden you're moving it. It'll be interesting to see over the next 4 games how things develop. But I will say this: I think you basically saw the first team offense. I think you will see a lot of Jennings as a starter and a lot of Williams as maybe the third down back and the change of pace back. It'll be interesting to see how Victor Cruz does. It'll be interesting to see how Ruben Randall, a new starter for Akeem Nicks, is going to play in really his first time with all that responsibility.
Yeah, for sure. What are you hearing about Wilson? I mean, has anything been determined, or I mean, because obviously he's got an appointment with a doctor to check out his neck and to see what the situation is. But I mean, here's a guy who this time next week his career might be over.
Well, he's got an appointment today with the doctor who worked on him the first time. He knew, and the team knew coming in that, you know, he had spinal fusion surgery in his neck. That's a serious deal. And I spoke to a doctor on Tuesday when I was at Giants camp when he walked off the field, and I essentially said, all right, this doctor has been a team doctor for other professional franchises, and I said, all right, I know you're not treating it, but you have a guy who had spinal fusion surgery, and within a week of being cleared, suffers a stinger. What do you think? And he said, it's bad news. It's bad news for his prognosis. And at 23, you have to wonder if maybe it's time for him to hang it up. So, but who knows? I mean, at the same time, Matthias Kiwanuka, while he didn't have fusion surgery, underwent a similar situation a few years ago, and he's still playing. So it's tough to tell, but today will be a big day. Today, I think he's going to find out what condition his neck is in and where they're going to go from here. But I can guarantee you that the Giants are going to be cautious. They don't want anything horrible on their hands. So I wouldn't expect to see Wilson for quite some time, if ever again.
Same here. What did the doctor say in terms of worst case? I mean, what if he does come back? I mean, is there any sort of like realistic possibility of paralysis? I mean, is that the worst case or?
I mean, he has spinal stenosis, which is a narrowing of the spinal column.
Okay.
I think that's separate from the herniated disc he had, which necessitated the spinal fusion surgery. But pinching that spinal cord, and yes, paralysis is the worst case scenario, but it is possible. And, you know, I don't know what the likelihood of that happening is, but I'm certainly sure no one wants to take a chance with that.
No, not at all. That's not the risk you want to take. So, talk about just in terms of Giants. Obviously, there's no quarterback controversy. Even despite I wrote this in my notes. The 73-yard pass from Ryan Nassib to Corey Washington, which is probably the last time you'll hear those names this season. But that was the deciding touchdown last night, and certainly beefed up the passing stats. But what do you see? I mean, you talked about Randall, and obviously Cruz is the main guy. But what else do the Giants have? I mean, what has Beckham shown you so far? And I know that there's been some grumbling about him early on. But what has he shown you so far? And what else have the Giants kind of unearthed as far as receiving people?
Well, before we get to Beckham, don't overlook Nassib. There is sort of a quarterback controversy, and that's the Giants haven't decided if they're going to take 2 or 3 quarterbacks. They really want to take 2. The backup is Painter, who was with the team last year, who's sort of a steady guy that basically Coughlin trusts will go out in the field and not throw a pick. But Nassib is the kid they drafted out of Syracuse. they're hoping he wins the job. So that was a big step forward as far as the Giants coaching staff was concerned, because they only want to keep